Looking to make some healthier habits this holiday season? Make sure to check out our Moving Through Midlife community over on Facebook, as we are doing a Planksgiving event where we are doing daily plank workouts. We will be doing an advent for healthy, happy hips this holiday season, and then also have a sugar challenge, a 2-week sugar challenge that you might be interested in. Happy holidays! Welcome to Moving Through Midlife. I am your host, Courtney, a personal trainer and movement specialist who wants to help you move through midlife with more grace. Each week, we will discuss ways we can show up better for ourselves and our children without the burnout. We will focus on overall health through habit stacking to help increase energy, provide movement snacks to help you move more throughout the day while also moving your body more, and learn from professionals on moving through midlife with ease so that you can feel confident with aging gracefully. Grab your earbuds and join me on a leisurely walk while we discuss moving through midlife. Today, I am speaking with Vanessa. She is a homeopath with 25 years of experience. She currently focuses on women's health, cycle awareness, and hormone health. Her mission is to support women with their health naturally, raise awareness on the side effects of prescription drugs, and guide mothers into becoming confident homeopathic home prescribers. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Hi, Courtney. I'm really good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to meet you. I wanted to just kind of get some information from you about what it is you do. You are, how do you even, is it a homeopath?
Homeopath. Yeah, I
Okay.
guess that's the right word.
Yeah, like homeopathy, homeopath. And can you explain like what got you started on this journey of homeopathy?
Ooh, I'll try to be short though, because I have such a long history behind me. But thanks for having me. I'm delighted that I have the opportunity to talk about the thing I love the most. To me, this is really a lifestyle. So I am about to be 48. And when I was 18 years old, I became sick with bronchitis recurrently, several times during a period of 1 year.
Okay.
And it kind of got me thinking, like, why am I having this? And I guess the thing that kind of turned the tables was when I went to my GP and I came inside the office and I said to him, I am allergic to penicillin, because I knew he was going to give me antibiotics. And I think the man didn't hear me because, he had 60 people to see in an hour and he gave me penicillin. And I had such a horrible reaction to that when I went back and he saw me and he said, "Oh, I think you shouldn't take that anymore." It's like, duh. And I remember that moment. I walked out of that office, Courtney, and I thought, this is the last time I'm ever going to take medication for anything. And that's what my journey started. My brother at the time, my older brother, was studying acupuncture.
Okay.
And that's where my journey into, let's say, alternative medicine started. And I never looked back. I haven't taken one single medication for anything in all these years. And I've
Oh my
had
goodness.
strep throats, UTIs, you name it, migraine attacks, hormonal problems, whatever I've had, I've never used any cortisone, antibiotics, painkillers, anything after that. So
Okay.
I'm a living example of how much we can do with these medicines. And for me, homeopathy is number one, but I use other things like acupuncture, reflexology, osteopathy, lots of things.
Okay. Okay. And can you explain what exactly is homeopathy? Like, because people look at them and they're pills, and there's all kinds of like, where is this coming from?
Okay, so yeah, it's true that a lot of people, they hear homeopathy and they think, oh, it's herbs, it's some herb ointments or something like that. But homeopathy was actually born in the late 1800s in Germany by a doctor and a chemist called Samuel Hahnemann. And the thoughts that are around homeopathy and its theory were not really completely new when he developed them, but he did develop them into a system of medicine that is just wonderful for treating acute and chronic disease. So what is homeopathy? If I tell you about the 4 pillars of homeopathy, they are the law of similars. So we match the symptoms of the person that is sick to some substance that is known to create the same symptoms in a healthy person.
Okay.
The second one is minimum dose, which is potentized remedies, which means they are diluted and they are put into sugar pills. And this is why science attacks homeopathy all the time, because there is, above a certain strength of the remedy, there is no longer any molecules left from the original substance. So they say, oh, there is nothing there, it can't cure. The third one is individuality. And that means that every single person gets a remedy for their symptom picture and not for the diagnosis they have. That means that if we have 3 ladies with migraine, it is very, very likely that each one of them will get their own medicine for their migraine.
Okay.
And the fourth is totality. And totality means that we really take into consideration the whole person. That means mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, diet, nutrition, past, medication, you name it. I mean, some people say to me, gosh, you know more than my husband. You even know how my pool looks like. It's like, yeah, well, I need to know.
Yeah. Well, I like that you do all of that you're looking at the whole person, because I think, we all deal, like you said, with the migraines. There are numerous reasons as to why someone may have a migraine, and it's not always the same thing. So why do we treat it all the same way when, it might be something different for each person that, what you need. Yeah. Okay.
And I believe that's the strength of homeopathy, because we have over 3,000 remedies we can use,
oh my
right? So no single form of medicine on this planet has that opportunity to really nail it to the point, where the remedy matches your symptoms so well that it will bring about cure.
Right. Well, and I think with everything, I do feel like we have got, and I feel like medicine might be moving this way as well, that we're starting to look, the more we learn about the human body, the more we're starting to think about things on an individual approach. And I think just like with everything, just with mental therapy, mental health and everything, you've got to look at the person sitting in front of you rather than looking at just the symptoms, the diagnosis, all of that. You've got to take it all into account.
Absolutely. But, this tells you also how advanced homeopathy is, because this was known to homeopaths already 250 years ago. And only now, the rest of the world is waking up to this. It's like in the last maybe 10, 15 years that more and more all kinds of practitioners from all walks of life are actually looking into, okay, yeah, well, maybe, I need to look further than what, the diagnosis is.
Right. Okay, so you specialize in hormone health for women, correct?
Yeah. Well, homeopaths are trained for everything and anything. I mean, I have clients with Parkinson's. I treat ear infections in children and whatever, is brought to me. Okay. But I do have a special interest in hormone health. And I combine that because I'm also an NLP coach, and I do a lot of cycle awareness and cycle tracking and working with the cycle for women's health and happiness, that I focus quite a lot on hormone health. And of course, it's now like the period of my life that I'm in. So it concerns me too.
Yes, I was going to say we're about the same age. I'm 48. So it's definitely something that I'm dealing with as well. So I always find it interesting when women start to talk, especially with all of this hormonal fluctuations, these ups and downs, these different feelings that you may never have felt before. I cannot tell you how many times people come to me and ask me, what can I take? What can I take to help with this? And, I'm not there to help. They're just looking for advice on maybe a nutritional, like what supplement can I take? And everybody just wants that magic pill, so to speak, as to what they can do to change something. And I want to hear from you, like, where should we be starting? Do we start with the supplements, or where do you recommend we start?
I love that question, Courtney, because I love supplements and I use them myself a lot and I recommend them a lot. But, it is true that a lot of people, we tend to think, okay, if I take a supplement, maybe there are other things I don't need to do, right? It's like, let's make my life easier. And we often forget the very, very basic things like drink enough water. Don't drink coffee after 2 p.m. I don't know, have regular meals and eat things that are nutritious and they're good for your body. If we're talking about hormones, fats are extremely important because hormones in the body, at least part of them, are built out of cholesterol and out of fats. Without fat, you can never really be, balanced hormonally. It's just impossible. So good sleep, good rest, regular exercise, fresh air, water, a variety of vegetables and fruits and whole foods and grains, and the more organic you eat, the better. And for me, it makes no difference whether one's want to be a carnivore or vegetarian. There are plenty of things you can eat and have a good diet and a nutritious diet, whatever you choose to do with your life when it comes to whether you eat meat or not. But, these are the things that I always start with, because I know that I can give somebody the most wonderful supplements in the world. And if they're completely stressed and they are not eating and drinking and going on coffee and all of the things, it doesn't matter how much I give supplements. That money is basically flushed down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
So
first
things first.
Yes, and they've got to start with that. And I think people just I really think people know, like friends of mine who will say, well, I'm struggling with this last bit, right here. I'm not able. And, most of the people that know me are talking about weight loss. So they're saying, I'm struggling with these last 5 pounds. Can you just tell me what I want to try this supplement? Do you have any ideas? And I'm like, are you moving every day? Are you exercising? No, I don't really have time for that. I'm like, well, we got to start there first. So, I love that you also have that exact approach with women, going through these hormonal changes, and they are dealing with this, and they've got their nutrition, they're like handling everything, and they're still struggling with certain things. Maybe it's a shortened cycle, maybe they're still dealing with symptoms of bloating or aches and pains, cramping. How do you handle that next? Do you look, because you mentioned that you're not looking at like what it is specifically. How do you handle that for supplements? Are there certain supplements you're then providing them to kind of handle a certain symptom?
Well, when it comes to supplements, I first really like to understand what the problem is, because it's again the same thing. It's not always that simple to give general advice, because when it comes to the work I do is very specific and very tailor-made and individual. But when it comes to weight loss, if I can take that as an example, I know that women of our age often struggle with losing the belly fat. So they may, do all the right things and still, be like, okay, my belly is still not going, it's not going anywhere. And often that can have to do with high cortisol. And so stress management or stress reduction, let's call it like that, is very, very important. The other thing that is very important is liver health and gut health. So when it comes to supplements, I will look at what is going on with the woman and help her with that. I may recommend, if there is stuff like hot flushes and things like that, I may recommend something like Don't Quai or supplements that actually help with the estrogen production. But also, if the liver and the gut don't work well, that too is not often working. So herbs for liver health, like dandelion, is a very good one, or milk thistle, I think you call it in English, yes. Mm-hmm. And anything that reduces inflammation, if you think about juices or what you can incorporate in your food, something like ginger that stimulates the digestion and stimulates the liver. You can use turmeric. Some people hate the taste of it, but you can juice it. And if you don't like turmeric, you can then take, maybe in supplements there are capsules and things like that. You can use that, reduces inflammation. And there is probiotics. Fiber is extremely important for us women, especially the ones wanting to lose weight. You probably know that, because it can help you regulate your hunger, also protein, but with fiber, it's like a cushion that, kind of slows down the absorption of sugars. So it gives you, a more steady energy throughout the day. And of course, it keeps the bowel working and it keeps it clean, because, it takes on volume on itself so that it can come out easily and take whatever is in the way. And with fiber, of course, drinking water is very important. Yep. So yes, again, I do use supplements a lot. And the reason for that is that most women nowadays have been on birth control or have used some other kinds of medications. And those, unfortunately, they by default create deficiencies that create symptoms. And doctors then treat those symptoms with drugs,
which then creates more deficiencies. Okay, so
and more problems.
And what kind of deficiencies are you speaking about?
Well, if I look at birth control, the women that have used birth control in the past, even if they stopped years ago, they tend to have a more difficult menopause, earlier menopause. And when it comes to the use of birth control during the years that they're being used and even after, one of the most common things I see are chronic migraines. And that is often due to the deficiency of B6 vitamin. So B6 and B12 are extremely, extremely important. So if a woman, I don't recommend birth control. And I know that sounds crazy because people are like, are you mental? Especially for teenagers. And I totally get that. I mean, I don't judge the woman who chooses to use birth control, but I do think that we are not informed enough. So if a woman decides to take birth control, I would say that definitely supplement on B12, B6, and B12. Just get a good vitamin B complex, zinc, selenium, and magnesium. These are the five must. I see a lot of women on birth control that get also thyroid issues because of the deficiency in zinc and selenium. Okay. Zinc and selenium need to be taken apart because if you take them together, they neutralize each other. So zinc in the morning, selenium in the evening.
Okay. Now, is there a concern for anybody? So if someone's been taking birth control and they decide to take these B6, B12, zinc, selenium, magnesium, are there any concerns with taking all of those things, overdosing, anything like that they need to be making sure that they're working with someone specific, or those are all pretty safe things and you can take them?
Well, for me, when it comes to supplements, the first thing is to get good supplements that are made from organic matter and not something synthetic, because then you will, again, add on the problem and without fixing the underlying deficiency. So please do not buy stuff at Target that costs $3. I mean, we don't have Target in Europe, but, we have similar, like we call them the Chinese stores, where you can get everything for $1. Don't do that. Just make sure you find something, generally health stores have good supplements. You can ask maybe people, you can check iHerb or shops like that where they have a bigger variety, and you can always just email the people who sell them. So there is not a big amount of concerns in that sense that you're going to overdose, because most of vitamin B6 or vitamin Bs can be tricky. But if you use the natural sourced ones and you just stick to what the package says, and if you still don't feel any change, you can take a little bit more. Your body will tell you when you're taking too much. Right. Magnesium, the thing with magnesium is if you take too much, you'll notice because you'll be going to the toilet a lot. Right. So if you're suddenly wondering like, oh my God, what happened to my stool? It can be that you may be taking too much magnesium. But in general, the daily recommended amounts are too low.
Yes.
So,
well, and most of us are deficient in magnesium based on the information I've learned, is because we're all drinking coffee, we're all eating sweets. So we are just peeing all that magnesium out left and right.
And the stress, the more stressed you are, the more your body consumes, vitamin Bs and magnesium and all. And this is the reason why I often talk to my clients about reducing stress, because there is another thing that is under that. And that's where I use cycle awareness and cycle tracking. Even a lot of the women of my age are like, what? At this age? It's like I should have started when I was 30. It's like it's never too late. Right. Believe me, it's never too late, because it helps you understand the patterns. We women are brought up with the idea that we need to be, a superwoman 24/7. Like you are to embody the mother archetype forever, never complain, just give unconditionally, and always be ready to help everyone, your friends, your kids, your co-workers, everybody. And no, the rest, I don't need to rest. It's okay if I sleep a bit. It's, and we overwhelm ourselves. And actually we are running on fumes most of the time. We are nearly burned out. So this is something I talk about to the women I work with, and I use the cycle awareness, cycle tracking to help them understand the phases. Because even if your periods are irregular or even absent, or you don't even have a uterus, you're still a cycle being.
Yeah. And men are on like a 24-hour cycle, and we're on a 28,
yes,
26 to 32 day cycle. So yeah.
Yes, that's right. So there is so much we can do, though. There is so much we can do.
Yes, there is. With the cycle syncing, and that's one thing that I try to help my clients understand, because I was not privy to it. And I think many of us women who are older, we never even tracked our cycles. Like now, young women, they're tracking their cycles with whatever they're, on their phone and everything. Yes. They're tracking all of that, which we never did. And honestly, I still don't. I've got it mentally, but like that's part of the problem is we think that we need to do it that way. But we don't understand how important it is to go through that whole cycle, kind of like seasons, and understanding that each week or each few days, we need to be listening to our body and leaning into it. And I think so many of us, like you mentioned with the burnout, we think we have to be doing everything for everyone else. And
all the time.
we don't listen to our own body and what it's telling us. And we've gotten to where we ignore these signs and symptoms that are occurring because we're so busy helping everyone else, when really we've got to lean in. And I think the more we do cycle syncing, we tend to listen to our body more, slow down, don't do as much. Now is a wintering time for yourself. You should be resting. Appreciate that time. All of that. And we're not doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I also say to the women I work with, my clients, and the women that ask me these questions, is like, you don't need to be perfect in that too. I don't want to give you cycle syncing and cycle awareness to add on the stress. Sometimes it's a 5-minute thing a day or 10 minutes, even if it's just 5% of what you would ideally give yourself. You need to take that time because nature doesn't bloom also, around all year round.
Right.
There are seasons, and in the female body there are certainly seasons. So trying to be on ovulation mode, which is typically the best time of the month, 28 days a month, without having the ability to slow down and to recharge, that will lead to female and hormone problems more often than not.
Good to know. So these people that are constantly pushing and not listening to their cycle and listening to their body, say, slow down, relax. Oh, I'm going to push through. I'm tired, but I'm not going to rest. I'm going to go do the thing. They will then in turn have more symptoms of, say, PMS or hot flashes, or depending on where you are in that hormonal cycle.
Yes, that's absolutely my experience.
Okay.
I've seen it over and over again, and I've experienced it myself. I only discovered cycle syncing and tracking when I was 40 years old, after I had burned out already 3 times. So, I understand you girls. It's not like I'm blaming anyone because I'm the last in line. It's like, oh my God, I so learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one thing that's my hope as well, just working with women, is I saw what I did to myself and how burnt out I was and not listening. And I'd love to be able to help these moms that are getting ready to come into perimenopause or have just started, because it's a different world I thought at 42, I had hit, certain symptoms, but woo, it's different once you hit 48 and you're dealing with all new kind of symptoms where, I wake up in the morning and someday my toe hurts. I'm like, why is my toe hurting? Like, is this arthritis? And, you're dealing with all these little things that just creep up and it's very frustrating.
Yes, and it can be even scary, and it can catch you by surprise. You see, for example, for me, my mother, I have a sister that is 15 years older than me. Neither one of them really had any problems with menopause. I never heard, or even, I don't think they had big problems. So I never expected to have any myself. And what happened to me was it was more like a thyroid problem. So I suddenly was sleeping like 18 hours a day and I'm still tired and was like, what is going on? And gaining weight like crazy. And I had not changed my diet or anything. I couldn't do a thing. I had to stop my yoga practice, which I had for years, regularly. And I was like, what is going on here? And it took me a while. It's like, oh my, I'm a professional of the thing and I am in this and I don't figure it out until my friend who is an acupuncturist, she said to me, girl, I think your thyroid is screaming at you. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Okay.
And it was, and we got it fixed pretty quickly, but it took me a few months to really realize, oh, whoa, wow. It's my thyroid is not happy.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask you for some listeners here, if you could help with this. And obviously, they do need to make sure that they speak to their healthcare provider, speak to you personally, because like you mentioned, this is individualized. But if you have some ideas just based on what you're hearing, feel free to let me know. So someone wants to know, every time she is getting, like right before her cycle, her period, she is dealing with this lack of energy, feeling almost as if she's getting ready to get a cold. Is there anything that you can think that maybe she needs to be focusing on with her diet, health, nutrition, all of that? Any supplements she might want to use? And then any things that you do? You probably don't do homeopathy is more specific. So, right, to where you wouldn't say, yeah. So let me know your thoughts on that.
I cannot suggest any homeopathic remedies for that because I would really need to get to know her, and I would need to get to know her in any case because I would love to know what her month is like.
Okay.
And how her periods are and how have they been over the last years, also how old she is and stuff. But before
I would say period, definitely I can give you a couple of things, mid-40s. Well, I don't know about the cycle, but definitely, going through the changes.
Okay.
Early to mid 40s, I would say.
Before the period, both estrogen and progesterone drop dramatically. And that can have an influence on the immune system. It's also a little bit like a thyroid thing. So I would definitely ask her to maybe try some zinc in the morning, selenium in the evening throughout the month to start with. And just before the period, also because the amount of prostaglandins, this inflammation cells, let's say it like that, they increase. It would be really good to use stuff like ginger, turmeric, so warming stuff. And vitamin C. Again, I suppose it depends on where you're at in the US. I would like to know what the weather is like there. Because also going into winter season, it's even more important to keep the body warm, the kidneys warm. I mean, if she's in Florida, she probably doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, no, we're in Florida, so.
Oh, great then. So it won't get too cold around there in any case. But yes, so cinnamon, turmeric, ginger. They can be in fresh form. I mean, cinnamon is just a spice, and there is not such thing as fresh form. But cinnamon tea, or you can add it maybe on your hot chocolate. Hot chocolate is actually very good. I mean, I know in Florida it's probably not going to be that appealing.
No, I mean, we had seat warmers. It was 60 something degrees, 69, 71 degrees this morning, and we have our seat warmers on. We just feel cold differently than everyone else.
Right. Okay. I mean, of course, you could have, raw cocoa. Why not? You could have it cold. If it's really extremely hot, it probably won't feel so bad. But I also like to kind of tune in with what's going on around with the weather and how the body adapts. And yes, for this particular problem, I would say that that ginger, turmeric, cinnamon as spices, whether you want them in desserts or as a drink or in your food or making tea or whatever, they're very helpful.
Okay. And that's almost like leaning into that comfort of wintering, right? To allow her body to slow down, find soothing things that
Yes.
not your, and that's one thing I try to express to my clients is, when you're craving the sugar and the carbs, maybe look at finding ways to comfort yourself a little bit differently. Grab that cozy blanket, sit down and read and enjoy. And like you said, drink a cocoa, maybe a more raw cacao type cocoa drink or a healthy dark chocolate drink rather than these sugary drinks that are out there. But leaning into that a little bit more.
Yes, also craving carbs and craving sugars before the period has also something to do with hormones. So one way to kind of reduce that is to start, for example, using apple cider vinegar already during ovulation. So a couple of weeks before the period. That's one thing that can help. And reducing inflammation and resting. This is another thing we don't do enough. The menstruation time, the bleed time is winter, as you were saying. It's like, so PMS week is like autumn. So that's the time when we are already kind of getting ready for the bleed. And the bleed is that it should be rest, comfort, really listening to what you need. It's not the time to go run a marathon or, I don't know, finish some very big project or anything like that. You finishing things is something that can be done before the period. A lot of women get these cleaning attacks, like, right, now I'm cleaning this cupboard that has been staring at me for weeks. And it's like, people are like, what are you doing? Like, suddenly, out of the blue. So yeah, it's a time to declutter and clean and finish something so that you can go into the rest and then recharge for the next cycle.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And then what about if someone is dealing with dizzy spells when they're working out? Do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I would have to know more because, again, there can be plenty of reasons for that. I would look at, first of all, hydration. Mm-hmm. Always when there is spells of dizziness or feeling like I'm not quite right in the head and I'm maybe nausea, stuff like that, drink or see that you are hydrated. And a lot of us drink water, but the water we drink is not always that wonderfully healthy because it's missing minerals. So I often recommend women to use Celtic salt. Is it like how it's called in the US?
Yeah.
And at least in Britain also they call it in Australia, I think, or sea salt. I use this clean sea salt that is sold by a certain shop here, and
like
just
Dr. Do you know which one it is? The sea salt. Do you know which sea salt it is?
Well, we have this local this local shop here that
Oh,
brings
okay.
it. I don't really know whether, I don't think you have that in the US, but I
Oh,
know that
okay.
if you
Okay.
find Celtic salt, it's
Okay.
the same. What
Okay.
you're looking at is adding certain minerals so that the electrolytes in the body, stay in balance. Because if you drink just water, and it doesn't always really do the job.
Yeah,
So
and
that would
sometimes
be
it
one
kind of
thing.
creates some of the dizzy spells because you're drinking so much water and you don't have the electrolytes with it. So
If it's during workouts and there is sweating involved, I would look at that. Another thing
okay.
that can happen is that for some women that tend to have migraines, exercise may bring on attacks, or let's say it like that, the energy is going up to the head,
Mm-hmm.
so might look at what she's doing. I would have to have more specific
Okay.
information on how does it happen and how does it but I would encourage her to look at that. How
Okay.
much does she drink? What kind of exercise? What time of the month that happen? Does it always happen, or just at certain times of the month?
Okay. Perfect. All right. Tell us where we can find you. And I want to make sure that they also know that you have a booklet of information. And it is, I mean, we just barely touched on what is covered in that book. So, I mean, it's great. So let
Thank
everybody know
you.
where they can find you and how they might be able to work with you as well.
Well, right now I'm pretty much more active on Facebook. I used to have websites and things, and I gave them up because people were not using them. Sounds silly,
No, it's the
but
truth. Yeah.
I love to connect with women personally. I love it when women send me messages and I can get to know them and give them a bit more specific advice, because general advice is great, but it doesn't, one size does not fit all. So you can find me on Facebook, and on my Facebook profile, there is my Linktree link
Yep.
that has the book in it. So you can just click it open and download it. It's a 26 page. They got a bit out of hand. I said mini ebook. So yeah, you can download that. And there's quite a lot of stuff in there, including on how to work with me. There is some information about my Midlife Magic program. There is some stuff about cycle syncing, cycle awareness, lots of stuff. So yeah, definitely through Facebook is probably the best way to find me.
And actually, I'll put the link in the comment section below on the live as well for you.
Right.
And then for those listeners on the podcast, I will also make sure to put the link directly in there for them as well to your link tree.
Thank you, Courtney. This has been a pleasure. I love talking to women about women. I think we are the most important thing on this planet. Sorry.
No, it's, I don't think any woman would be offended by that statement.
No, but really, I do think that it's time for us to give ourselves and each other more love, and to really nurture and help each other as much as we can. And I am absolutely thrilled that I was able to come here and spend 50 minutes with you talking about these things. Thank you. Thank you very much to you and everyone listening.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day for this.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and found something to take away to help you practice healthier habits, move more, or handle the midlife and aging with grace. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or leave us a review to help us reach more moms just like you. Head to movingthroughmidlife.com to join the free community or learn how you can move more and feel better in your daily life.